Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about a situation that is unfolding quietly for some and painfully loud for millions inside Iran. What you are about to hear is not an exaggerated headline or social media drama. The collapse happening in Iran right now is far worse than most people outside the country realize, and the signs are everywhere if you know where to look. Iran is facing a multi-layered crisis at the same time. This is not just about politics or sanctions anymore. This is about daily survival. Across cities and small towns, people are struggling to secure the most basic necessities of life. Water, electricity, gas, and even food are becoming unreliable or completely unavailable in many areas, and this has pushed public anger to a breaking point. Let's start with water, because water is life, and Iran is running out of it. Large parts of the country are experiencing severe water shortages. Rivers have dried up, reservoirs are at historic lows, and groundwater has been overused for decades without proper management. In some regions, taps run dry for days. In others, people receive water only for a few hours at night, forcing families to store whatever they can in buckets and tanks. This water crisis is not caused by drought alone. Years of mismanagement, corruption, and poorly planned infrastructure projects have made the situation much worse. Massive dams were built without long-term environmental planning. Agricultural policies encouraged water-intensive crops in arid regions. As a result, entire ecosystems have collapsed, and once fertile lands are turning into dust. In cities like Tehran, Isfahan, Outage, and Mashhad, people are protesting not because of ideology, but because they are thirsty. Farmers have taken to the streets after losing their livelihoods. Urban residents are angry because they pay bills but receive no water. These protests are not organized by political parties. They are spontaneous, emotional, and driven by desperation. Electricity is another major pressure point. Power outages have become routine across Iran. In the summer, when temperatures soar, electricity cuts leave homes without fans or air conditioning. Hospitals struggle to keep critical equipment running. Businesses shut down because machines cannot operate without stable power. Students cannot study, and families sit in darkness for hours. The government often blames electricity shortages on increased consumption or heat waves, but the deeper issue is a crumbling energy infrastructure. Iran is rich in oil and gas, yet power plants are outdated, poorly maintained, and inefficient. Sanctions have made it harder to import spare parts and modern technology, but internal corruption and mismanagement play an equally important role. Gas shortages in winter add another layer of suffering. In some regions, people must choose between heating their homes or cooking food. Schools close because classrooms are too cold. This contradiction is shocking for a country sitting on one of the world's largest natural gas reserves. Now let's talk about the economy, because economic collapse fuels everything else. Inflation in Iran has crushed purchasing power. Prices of basic goods like bread, rice, cooking oil, and meat have skyrocketed. Salaries have not kept up. For many families, meat has become a luxury they can afford only once a month, if at all. Young people are especially affected. Unemployment remains high even among university graduates. Many educated Iranians see no future inside the country. This has led to a massive brain drain, with doctors, engineers, and professionals leaving whenever they get the chance. Those who stay feel trapped in a system that offers little hope. The national currency has lost much of its value. Every time the rial falls, prices rise overnight. Shopkeepers change price tags daily. People rush to convert their savings into dollars, gold, or property, anything that might hold value. This creates panic and deepens inequality, as only the wealthy can protect themselves from inflation. All of this has created an atmosphere of constant tension. Protests erupt frequently, sometimes over water, sometimes over electricity, sometimes over unpaid wages, and sometimes over political or social issues. What connects these protests is anger, frustration, and a feeling that the system no longer works for ordinary people. Security forces often respond with force. Arrests, internet shutdowns, and intimidation are used to control the situation, but repression does not solve the underlying problems. It only pushes anger underground, where it builds pressure like steam in a sealed container. The internet shutdowns deserve special attention. During periods of unrest, access to social media and messaging apps is restricted. This isolates people from the outside world and from each other. Businesses that rely on online platforms lose income instantly. Families cannot communicate properly. Information becomes scarce, rumors spread, and fear increases. Environmental collapse is another silent disaster. Air pollution in major cities is among the worst in the world. Schools close due to toxic smog. Respiratory illnesses are rising. Lakes like Urmia have shrunk dramatically, turning into salt flats that poison nearby farmland. Dust storms now affect regions that never experienced them before. These environmental issues are directly linked to governance failures. When environmental experts warn about consequences, they are often ignored. Short-term political and economic interests take priority over long-term sustainability. The result is a country slowly becoming harder to live in. Social pressure is also growing. Women face strict controls and limited freedoms, sparking repeated waves of protest. Ethnic and regional minorities feel marginalized and neglected. Workers protest unpaid salaries. Retirees protest pensions that can no longer cover basic expenses. Teachers protest low wages and poor conditions. What makes this situation especially dangerous is that all these crises are happening at the same time. Water shortages increase protests. Protests lead to internet shutdowns. Internet shutdowns damage the economy. Economic collapse fuels more anger. Power outages increase frustration. It is a vicious cycle with no easy exit. The government often presents a narrative of resistance and survival, blaming external enemies for the country's problems. While sanctions have certainly hurt Iran's economy, they do not explain everything. Internal policies, lack of transparency, and systemic corruption have played a huge role in bringing the country to this point. Ordinary Iranians understand this. That is why protests increasingly target not just specific issues, but the entire system. People are no longer asking for small reforms. Many are questioning whether the current structure can ever deliver a decent quality of life. At the same time, fear remains strong. Decades of repression have taught people the risks of open opposition. This creates a tense balance between anger and caution. Outbursts happen, then die down, then return again, often stronger than before. The future is deeply uncertain. Without serious reforms, investment in infrastructure, environmental protection, and economic stability, conditions are likely to worsen. Climate change will intensify water shortages. Aging power plants will fail more often. Inflation may continue to erode living standards. Yet, despite everything, Iranian society is resilient. People help each other. Communities organize informal support networks. Families share resources. This social resilience is one of the reasons the country has not completely fallen apart yet. But resilience has limits. When people cannot provide water for their children, cannot heat their homes, and cannot see a future, patience runs out. History shows that prolonged hardship eventually leads to major change, one way or another. What is happening in Iran today is not a sudden collapse, but a slow-motion crisis that has been building for years. The difference now is that the cracks are impossible to hide. From water shortages to electricity blackouts, from economic despair to constant protests, the warning signs are everywhere. The world often focuses on Iran only during moments of international tension, nuclear talks, or regional conflicts. But the real story is happening inside the country, in the daily lives of millions of people who are simply trying to survive. Understanding this crisis requires looking beyond slogans and headlines. It requires listening to the voices of ordinary Iranians watching the protests and paying attention to the basic services that are failing one by one. If current trends continue, Iran will face even greater instability. Whether that leads to reform, further repression, or something entirely unpredictable remains to be seen. What is clear is that the collapse is deeper, wider, and more serious than most people think. This is not just Iran's problem. Instability in a country of over 80 million people affects the entire region and beyond. Migration pressures, economic shocks, and security risks do not stop at borders. For now, millions of Iranians wake up each day unsure if they will have water, electricity, or enough money to get through the week. That reality, more than any political speech or international debate, defines the true state of the country today. And that is why understanding